Hi everybody, it's great to be back here for our next lesson on Perkay Avot. In this lesson we're going to talk about Rabban Gamliel, the 16th Mishnah. And Rabban Gamliel talks about, he was called Rabban Gamliel the Elder, to distinguish from his son, who was Rabban Gamliel of Rabbiavi. And Rabban Gamliel was the grandson of Hillel. Again, he was the head of the Sanhedrin during the times of the destruction, right before the destruction of the temple, when actually the Sanhedrin was exiled from one part of the temple, which was called the Lishkat HaGazit, from the chamber of hewn stone to another area called the Chanut, and that was already a stage process where eventually exile will take place, and the Sanhedrin was exiled completely. But his words, his teachings now, to prepare, I guess, this could be a preparation for exile, is reminding us something we've mentioned before, and it was already quoted, this study, but again, the emphasis on it. Asay lecharav. Make yourself a rabbi. One must have a teacher. V'stalek min hasafek. And therefore, by having a rabbi, one could be without doubt. As long as we do things on our own, as long as we don't ask questions, we think we know all the answers, that's when all the doubts come up and all the problems begin. How many problems we would save ourselves from if we just asked the question to someone who knows a little bit more about Torah than we do, about life than we do. And when you're making yourself a rabbi, it's for many, many reasons. Teaching us the law, giving us advice about so many issues. And this is why we have a rabbi. They've been around, they have a real experience, they've been studying for many, many years. And they're men of God, and we must always turn to men of God when we have a doubt. And therefore, Rabban Gamliel is teaching us, right now, we're getting ready for exile here. The temple's about to be destroyed. But never lose a connection with the rabbis, because that's our lifeline. And he goes on to say, "V'al tarbel aseh umadot." And when you giving tithes, don't do it by estimate, do it exactly. Because if you don't do it exactly, it's not tithes anymore. This is, of course, referring to the fruit in Israel. When the land requires to give tithes, only it's a law that applies to the land of Israel, not to fruit grown outside of Israel. But of course, it's a metaphor as well. When we do something by estimate, not doing it, it's like doing it haphazardly without thinking, we make mistakes. And therefore, when we actually act and do things, we must do it exactly by asking a rabbi, asking a teacher, and not doing it again on our own accord. Only when we are well equipped, well studied, well learned, and we know the law very well, of course, then we can become ourselves teachers for others. But everyone needs a rabbi and also to be a teacher. And this is the way of life. I'm going to say a few words in my rabbi's name. My Rabbi Yamin Herling, unfortunately, was murdered around a decade ago. A terrible intifada broke out on the Mount of the Curse, Mount Eval. When I moved to Israel in 1985, I came to yeshiva and I studied for 13 years. It was such a privilege to sit next to such a man with such clarity. And had so many questions, because I'm a person who always asks questions. And just to be able to have someone close to me to give me the answers and help me and guide me and really help me build my spiritual world was a tremendous privilege. And unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to ask enough questions. 13 years wasn't enough. I wish it was around today, of course, there's some of these questions. But of course, the tremendous principles that I received from him, this great basis is what's guiding me until this day, of course, and to my many students, because I also have to serve myself today as a rabbi to my students. But at the same time, always turn to the Torah I received from my rabbis, and it's a guiding light for me. But that's an important lesson, I think, for all of us, to never forget that we can ask advice and we should have a teacher, because everyone needs a rabbi. Everyone needs a teacher. So Shabbat Shalom, and we'll meet next week. Bye-bye.